Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Windsor's downtown commercial vacancy rate is now the highest in Canada and double the percentage of the national average. Plus, the University of Windsor's president is responding to the pro-Palestinian encampment that has started on campus. And an opportunity for divers to qualify for the Olympics is happening right here in Windsor. We introduce you to one local athlete who is trying for a spot on the world's largest stage. The highest vacancy rate for downtown office buildings in Canada is Windsor. Developers believe turning those units into homes would be a creative solution, but as the CBC's Chris Ensing reports, there's barriers to success.
Foot traffic, it's a big part of the plan to revitalize downtown. Get more people living in the core and others will follow. A busy street is a safe street, according to experts, but there's a problem and it's towering over these downtown roads. CBRE tracks commercial real estate data across Canada and says Windsor's downtown office vacancy rate has hit a crisis point. This was a problem back in 2019, before the pandemic pushed people out of offices to work from home. That created massive behavior shifts, playing out in cities across the country. Office vacancy rates in downtowns across Canada have seen spikes, but none like Windsor. It's the highest for major cities in the country at 41%. And while the downtown office vacancy rate doubled in 5 years, the suburban rate barely increased to 11%. The numbers were highlighted in a letter to council this week, saying that safety and security were the #1 reason companies left downtown Windsor. Developer Reese Trenhall is working to fill in office space, but not with employees. He's converting empty commercial spaces into places to live.
Between these two properties here, you're adding 52 residential units. You're adding probably about 90 beds, because some of these will be 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom units. Well, Bull and Barrel's right across the street. That really helps Bull and Barrel sell their chicken wings and their beers over time.
His projects have taken years to get approval. Work starting on these two buildings this year, creating dozens of housing units and bottom floor retail space. He's just submitted final plans to the city for approval on this project, converting the Canada building into housing as well as retail space. He says this is something other cities are ahead on.
Overall, it's all trending in the right direction. It's just a question of, is it being done fast enough, considering this is a true crisis? They're actually being a lot more aggressive in London, Ontario, for example, where I believe they signed up for the federal money that we didn't sign up for, and they're using a lot of that to provide, I think, about $28,000 per unit to convert more of that old office space into residential.
Windsor will give someone $2,500 for each residential unit they create downtown, capped at $50,000. That incentive can be enough to tip the scale.
When you're taking something that was built for a commercial purpose or a retail purpose and you're changing it to residential, there's a lot of factors that go into making that.
Home builder Brent Klundert heads the Windsor-Essex Home Builders Association.
As we move outside of the core, we have constraints on lots of infrastructure throughout Windsor as a whole and Essex County. The downtown core doesn't have these constraints. It is basically, it's open for business, it's open for that density. So as we're looking to infill, it's a perfect spot to center that high density housing.
These empty office buildings are not limited to residential conversions. The Sutherland building now sits empty. Hotel de Grace Healthcare says it has plans to move services inside this summer. Klundert and Trenhall agree that the city's downtown revitalization plan will help because of the renewed focus on the core.
You're going to see those cameras and those police officers having a very positive effect. Couple that with increased foot traffic from increased residential density into the downtown core over the next 5 to 10 years, and you should see a much, much different downtown core.
Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
The University of Windsor plans to meet with the organizers of a pro-Palestinian encampment on campus. President Robert Gordon says they reached out to the group yesterday and hopes to talk in the coming days.
We did respond yesterday morning about potentially having a conversation the next day or two to be able to better understand what they would like to see done, but also for us to be able to just to listen and learn to get a better context of what are the broader issues that they expect the university to consider moving forward.
Since Friday night, there's been at least 15 tents at the heart of campus. The group says it won't leave until its demands are met. Those demands include the university declaring investments that benefit Israel and divesting from them. One co-organizer says she wants the meeting with school officials to involve an action plan.
I am not optimistic that the administration is going to come into this meeting with concrete steps or concessions that they're willing to make. I am hoping, and I am, imploring that that's what they do, because if they don't want us here, they don't want us sleeping here, then we're not just using empty words or statements or promises. That is not what we are looking for.
A London man is awaiting sentencing after entering a Windsor hospital room of a terminally ill man, taking a selfie with him and posting it online. Bubba Pollock was charged with harassment in June of last year following the incident. The man in hospital was the father of a woman who Pollock had clashed with online over a drag event.
I thought it was a Photoshop picture at first. So I was like, there's no way this is real. And then it was when I called the hospital and they said, yeah, there's flowers in his room. And it was, my heart sank. It was the scariest moment of my entire life, that he's gonna take the time to research who I am, drive to a city, and use that, my dying father, to intimidate me.
The stunt led to Pollock pleading guilty in January. His next court appearance is scheduled for May 29th, when a date for sentencing will be set. Britt LaRue's father, Andre, passed away from pancreatic cancer a month after the incident. LaRue says she still hasn't posted an obituary out of fear of further online harassment. She's preparing a victim impact statement and continues to advocate for 2S LGBTQ+ issues.
We're thrilled to host the first Olympic trial qualification of any sport in our history here in the city of Windsor.
The 2024 Canadian diving trials are happening at Windsor's International Aquatic and Training Centre this weekend. Close to 50 of Canada's top divers will be competing for the special honor of representing Team Canada at the Paris Olympics. There's only one local diver competing, that's 16-year-old Maisie Willinson. She's been diving since she was 8 years old with Windsor Diving Club and is thrilled to try for a spot on the world's largest stage.
I'm here with so many amazing divers. They've been to the Olympics before. I've competed against them, but this is just on such a different level. This is on my hometown. I get to have my parents here, and it's a thrill. You know what they say, like every pool is different, all the boards are different, so being able to be comfortable in my own pool, it's actually a lot better than I think a lot of people can say.
We do have some little kids who are very excited and they have big dreams, and it seems like nothing will stop them, so I think Maisie will be a good motivation for them.
You can plan to see more moves like that later this summer. 2 basketball courts will be set up on the river. Battle Canada, which hosts basketball events to raise money for local charities, has announced Battle 519. The 3-day event will run from August 30th to September 1st at Riverfront Festival Plaza. It's the first time the group has come to Windsor, and they're hoping to make it an annual event. Money raised will go to Windsor Essex Care for Kids Foundation and Windsor Essex Hospice.
We saw the benefits of not only from a basketball standpoint, but also raising money for the community, because it has that component of giving back to the community. So those two things combined was very attractive to us, and we felt we really needed to bring this to the community, and here we are.
A historic organ at Windsor's Assumption Church is making music again. Recently, the 105-year-old organ was painstakingly taken apart. Piece by piece, it was cleaned and restored, and it's not the church's only restoration planned.
I was very, very happy to be able to announce to the congregation on Sunday that we've been able to restore the Cassavant organ. It's 105 years old, going back to 1919. That involved restoring, cleaning, and repairing almost 2,000 pipes. The Clean the Pipes campaign was very successful in raising about $25,000. It had been able to be used, but it just wasn't in the shape it needed to be in. But we had to dismantle the whole thing in order to be able to repair the ceiling up above and to do the restoration, the murals up above the organ. It gave us an opportunity to bring it up to perfect operating condition.
Aside from the organ, there's lots of other things happening right now at Assumption Church.
Yes, we're just thrilled that we had a retired school teacher who's actually 90 years old, donated $116,000 in shares. Between that major donation and hundreds of others, we've been able to pay off the debt. We've got $30,000 in the bank, and we're ready to start doing more of the work. The ceiling and the beautiful mural painted by Guido Nincari, the world-famous artist who's done the other decorations in the church. That's going to be cleaned and restored. Then the final phase will be the ceiling in the main body of the church.
For Elder Larry Johnson, fishing at the Caldwell First Nation Marina holds historical, spiritual, and leisurely significance. The CBC's Josiah Sinanen met with Johnson to learn more about the importance of fishing for him and his community.
When we're having the fishing derbies, my personal spot is you go to the corner over here and go about 15 yards to the left. That's my spot. This young man came up to me and said, I got a silver bass here. And I said, you know what, he's so small, I'm not even gonna weigh him. But I don't hear of anybody else today that caught a silver bass. If yours is the only silver bass for the day, you win the prize. As Indigenous people, we were good at improvising. Any knife is a fish knife. Any string is a fishing string. I used to harvest dew worms by walking around at night with a flashlight in my hand. But now I just dig them out. If I have an old car mat out behind the house in a wet spot, I just have to lift up that old car mat and the dew worms are there waiting for me.
And you're thinking we're gonna get some kind of panfish, you said.
Yeah.
What is that?
Panfish could be a species called sunfish, bluegills, or even a crappie, maybe even a bass.
And you don't need to anchor down the stick or anything?
No, because I'm here. If the big fish takes off, I'm like this.
Okay. That's your Taekwondo skills?
Yeah. Reflexes are still there.
So how long are you out here on a typical day when you come to fish?
If I have my way, it'll be all day. According to my wife's schedule, she might allow me an hour, or she might say, I'll pick you up at 4 o'clock, which could mean 3 hours, 4 hours, or longer. I let my mind go kind of wander or go blank, and then I just try not to pay any attention. And then all at once, there's a good bite.
Colette, what a beautiful day it was if you wanted to go fishing.
Yeah, and certainly got better and better as the day was wearing on, right? The wind's a little bit breezy out of the northeast, but that's about it. Not much else to speak of. Our normal high at this time of year is 21. We got a little past that, and our normal low 9 this morning, 12 degrees. Tonight will be a little closer to that normal low. And just having a look at the records, at this time of year, a record low is not in the negatives, but it shows you how low we can go. It also shows you, obviously, how high we can go and how warm. And speaking of heat, let's take a look at what's going on in Western Canada. So here I'm talking about the forest fire conditions as we go into BC and take a look at Alberta, Manitoba as well, Saskatchewan, even northern Saskatchewan in on this. But Fort Nelson to Fort McMurray, through this region, some of the smoke in the atmosphere. So this is at all levels, from ground level up into the upper atmosphere. It has been hazy further south towards Calgary. And then obviously I've even talked about how some of the smoke has been making its way over towards the Great Lakes region too. So what is helpful at the moment, or can be helpful, is that there at least is a widespread rain pushing through. We don't like to see additional lightning strikes, but those are further south, so this can provide a little bit of moisture and maybe aid things just a bit. Our current temperatures were sitting at that normal daytime high of 21, but we had popped up to 22. A little bit different story because of that north to northeasterly flow into Sarnia, Goderich too, with the influence of the lake there, seeing the temperature just a little bit, okay, quite a bit cooler, right? What a comparison there. And there are those winds as they're coming in. It's just enough northwesterly for Goderich and, of course, northerly there for Sarnia to really make that difference. Along that little boundary here, you get a lake breeze into the afternoon hours. We had it yesterday a bit further to the east. Today around the London region, as that's been passing through St. Thomas, so those regions, very, very localized, but getting some downpours, throwing some rainfall through there. Otherwise, the rest of it is south of the border, south and to the east. So let's take you through the overnight hours. We'll have quiet conditions. Tomorrow, a little bit of cloud cover early, I'd expect, but I do mean a little bit, and then we should break out of that and get into mostly sunny skies. See that? An isolated shower. I'm not putting it in the forecast. I really think there's not going to be anything to it. Instead, what happens is overnight tomorrow night into Friday, we will have some moisture passing through. So early Friday, that will provide some scattered showers and also some extra cloud cover into the day on Friday. Hopefully, we'll get some sunny breaks or becoming a mix there. There we are tonight, not quite down to 9 degrees. You will be through Sarnia. 10 degrees our overnight low, 11 degrees there for Chatham-Kent. But how about tomorrow? We get up to 24. Nice looking day. That little extra cloud cover is early. Then the rain showers and the clouds into Friday. And I know it's a holiday weekend. The temperatures are looking good, but we do have some shower chances there. Certainly Sunday and Monday, enhanced on Sunday.
The temperatures are looking good, but you said, I think earlier, the record 32 degrees for today?
Yeah, the record there right near 33, yep.
So, I mean, it's warm, but it's not that warm.
Yeah, exactly. We're not talking records here. We're just talking some nice conditions for May 2-4 long weekend.
Beautiful conditions. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
The Ford government has set out new rules for people guilty of impaired driving. We have that story coming up. The Ontario government is toughening the rules for impaired driving. People could lose their driver's license for life. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has the details.
The Ontario government is trying to send a message, adding a lifetime ban on holding a driver's license for impaired driving causing death. The province says 1 in 3 road deaths involves impaired driving.
Impaired driving is so preventable. Call a friend, call a taxi, take public transit. It's that easy.
The Minister of Transportation will include this in new legislation. The extended license ban is on top of the jail or prison sentence that someone could already face, followed by a shorter license suspension. Right now, it's 1 year for a first offense.
If you do contravene or break the law, we will come down very hard on you.
A member of MAD Canada was at the announcement, fully in favor of whatever tougher measures are added. Her son was killed by a drunk driver decades ago after buying his girlfriend a Valentine's gift.
He was killed instantly, and so I've had to live with that loss for many years, and it still hurts today.
The government is also requiring convicted drunk drivers to have an interlock device installed in their car. Without that breathalyzer, the vehicle doesn't start. Right now, those convicted can add the device or choose not to drive for a year. But one criminal defense lawyer is unconvinced these changes will make a difference. He spoke to CBC Radio's Metro Morning.
The way, in my opinion, to actually stop this and really hurt my income as a defense lawyer is to just put interlocks in every car.
The minister already announced another part of his legislation with up to lifetime license suspensions for another crime, carjacking, the lifetime ban for a third offense.
I don't think, however, it will be effective. I don't think it will change the rates of auto theft.
But opposition parties were mainly supportive of the proposed changes for impaired driving.
It's really, a case of making sure that people know that it's the wrong thing to do and underlining that.
I think it is a step in the right direction.
Some of this does seem to be a step in the right direction. I mean, families deserve justice and they also deserve accountability.
They want to see more exact details of what's in the legislation. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
2 moths have been enlisted in the battle against Phragmites. We have that story coming up. Scientists are using larvae from 2 moths that are native to Switzerland to combat the spread of Phragmites. The larvae eat nothing but Phragmites stems. Larvae have been planted at the Colavino Conservation Area in Amherstburg and the Petite Côte Conservation Area in LaSalle. As we mark National Invasive Species Action Week, the CBC's Dale Molnar caught up with a researcher from the University of Toronto in LaSalle.
So we have 2 species of moths. One's called Arcanara neurica and one's called Linisa geminipuncta. They're both pretty similar biologically, but as caterpillars, they bore into the Phragmites stems and eat them from the inside out. And as they develop, they'll go through 3 or 4 of those stems, killing some of them and stunting others. Then eventually they emerge as adults and then lay eggs underneath the leaf sheaths of these Phragmites stems. So the next year, hopefully, we have an even bigger population of these moths to start having a bigger effect on the Phragmites year on year. We bring insects from the native range of this invasive plant. We go through years of safety and host range testing to make sure that these insects are just going to feed on the Phragmites and none of the other plants that we have here in Canada. And then we release them in the Phragmites, and the idea is that we're reintroducing a natural enemy to this Phragmites, so it's now more likely to grow more in the habit that it would grow in its native range and give native plants much more of a foothold back in these environments. So we've had the license to release these moths since 2019. Since that time, we've released at nearly 40 sites. At almost all those sites where we've released, we've seen damage from the moths in the year of release. And then beyond that, in subsequent years, we've seen damage in 100% of those sites where the initial releases were. So this is a release cup for releasing the eggs of the 2 biological control moths. What we do is we put the eggs of the moths inside this internal container. It has a very kind of fine mesh at the bottom. The eggs then go inside this larger container, and when the eggs hatch, they can emerge from that internal container, and the bottom of the larger container is lined with a thicker mesh, which stops predators coming in and eating the eggs. But at the same time, the gaps are big enough to allow those first instar or tiny larvae to drop out of the container and start infesting the Phragmites stems around them. So this is 25 cut Phragmites stems. So each one of these stems has an individual Linisa geminipuncta caterpillar inside it. So we wait for those eggs to hatch in the lab, and then we use a paintbrush to insert the larva inside. That means that the larva will feed happily inside one of these stems for up to a week to 10 days. So it gives us a little bit of time, a little bit of leeway to get this whole structure out into the field where the Phragmites is before these larvae are going to emerge and then hopefully start doing their thing.
It's not a silver bullet. It won't actually get rid of Phragmites, but the idea is that it will knock it back a little bit, which can then allow some of our native wetland species to start to regenerate.
They're the talk of the town, though they haven't even hatched. 4 rare peregrine falcon eggs from Trois-Rivières in Quebec have been transported to a bridge in Montreal. The move was undertaken when it became clear a nesting pair would try to raise their chicks in a potentially dangerous construction zone. The eggs were transported to the steelworks of a bridge in Montreal to give them a better chance of surviving, and miraculously, a new set of parents adopted the relocated eggs and are covering and caring for them. Peregrine falcons are considered the fastest birds on the planet and are considered a vulnerable species by the Quebec government. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.